What it do? Welcome to the J-Boy Sports Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you don't love the content, you can still do those things because you could always help a brother out, and you know our brother would always help you out. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our glorious content. You want to hang on towards the end so you can catch some of our suggested content, our playlist, as well as a video or two that we know you will love. And then lastly, you want to make sure you comment because I will reply as ball is life. Chris Long. Great player for some time. His father was the great Howie Long. Knows a lot about football. Been around it most of his life. Excellent defensive end for the Eagles. Was on the Eagles Super Bowl team, I believe. The first one before Jalen Hurts with Nick Foles. And those guys, A.J. Brown and those guys. Actually, not A.J. Brown. What was that receiver's name? Dang, he was nice too. Who was the wide receiver on the Eagles that Nick Foles was thrown to in the Super Bowl? Alshon Jeffrey. I know it was another AJ. I was like, is it AJ too, right? It's Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, yeah. So Chris Long was on that team. Has a cool podcast called The Green Light with Chris Long. I like listening to him talk. He comes from a place of reasoning. And he has an interesting take on this Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys situation. And how Jerry doesn't care. He doesn't give a freak, man. Not at all. But at the same time, Jerry, listen, nobody expects him to win because Jerry is Jerry. But Chris Long is kind of giving Jerry some advice here, Jerry Jones some advice. Jerry Jones won't care. He's not going to make any changes. He's a billionaire. He's a stubborn old man that will never listen. So this is going to fall upon deaf ears, but Chris Long is right. And Jerry, if he was a wise man that was humble, would take this advice. This is some of the best advice that I've seen. But Jerry won't. However, it's still good for us to listen and check out what he has to say. So check out Chris Long and his humble advice that I think is actually gold.
I mean, part of me is like, hey, when I dropped that video, like, I guess it was almost a month ago, and I said, this time it's different. There was a lot of, no, it's not. This is what Jerry does. Yeah, but in this case, it was a different thing. I mean, Jerry had it with Micah, and Micah had it with Jerry. And it was over. It was over. And, Jerry's antics, which have been, an annual occurrence at this point in the offseason, I think it was just one too many. And honestly, like we can parse it a bunch of different ways, but we'll talk about winners and losers in these big trades. The Cowboys, at least in the short term, are going to feel like huge losers because of what I talked about, which is at some point as an owner, you have to give the appearance that you have some loyalty to your players and not just quarterbacks. You have to give the appearance of showing the respect for the guys who are making plays on the field. And that doesn't mean you have to give everybody a new contract, but you don't let it play out like this publicly because it just looks bad. And eventually, when your team's not cooking, it's going to be hard to attract free agents. Because not only is this a weird negotiating tactic, it's also a bad look in the public sphere. And players don't want to be in situations like this, right? I mean, for all the flaws that Micah Parsons has, being a diva or not playing hard is not one of them, in my opinion. The guy works his ass off. And so you're telling me that this is what you get in return. This could have been handled a lot differently, and now here we are.
And so that's Chris Long, Eagle great, talking about Jerry Jones and the Micah Parsons situation. And I got to say, I couldn't agree more. I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm getting involved, getting my hands dirty in a little bit of Cowboys banter. And Micah Parsons, I think Micah Parsons did the right thing. Now, I'm one of those people that holds the line of I don't want people being soft and running from every difficult situation, but Jerry Jones was out of pocket, man. He was trying to sun him in a big way. And I do believe that sometimes owners need to sun players. Do not get me wrong. But in the case of Micah Parsons, this was public and ridiculous. Like I think Jerry Jones came out one time and was like, well, he's under contract, right? So, we're not going to discuss it. But also, it's not just that aspect of it. I think he was like dismissing his agent and not having conversations with his agent and just trying to talk directly to Micah or something like that. And that's not good business practice. You're not supposed to do things like that. It was something like that. I may not have that 100%, but he was kind of doing some weird childish type of game back and forth with Micah and his agent. And, Chris Long said it's going to be hard for you to attract people to your team because you're acting immature, Jerry. Basically, you're acting like a child. And in some cases, you may be acting like the same players that you're supposed to be employing. You're supposed to be better than them. You're the owner. But you're acting like a child. That's how I look at some of the stuff that Jerry Jones is doing here. And how are you going to attract free agents? I saw a video earlier of Micah Parsons saying he was never going to leave Dallas. Well, that is not true anymore. And the relationship between the two of you got so bad that he decided to bounce. And I'm not a huge fan of Micah Parsons in general. As an Eagles fan, there were some people like, oh, just bring him right over here. I'm not saying all that. I don't necessarily want Cowboys on my field unless we're beating them down into the field. But even his game, he is a really good pass rusher. I think he leads the league in pressures or something like that. And he gets double teamed often based on the statistics coming off the edge. But, I think he's more of a one-trick type pony. I think he's okay in cover. But he's not like, other than the pass rush, on third down, definitely you want him. In a passing situation, it's going to be a pass, yeah, sign him up. You want a guy like that on the field in those moments. But overall, I don't really see how much he changes the game outside of it. Now, I don't watch every Cowboys game, but I definitely watch the ones against the Eagles, and I was never overly concerned with him as far as going against our offensive line. Excuse me. Allergies. But still, I feel like the Cowboys did kind of disrespect this man. He goes over and he gets $188 million from Green Bay. Jerry didn't want to pay him, but realistically, outside of Dak, and Dak has been very quiet. Dak's been very quiet. I think Dak's taking the approach of, I'm going to prove it on the field this year, which we'll see. I actually like Dak. Hate the Cowboys, but I like Dak. I like the way he carries himself. And I think that Dak's going to leave it on the field, but Micah Parsons, outside of Dak, Micah was the persona of your team. He was the only person worth following around and getting sound bites from. And you gave that up. So now, who is the real face of the Cowboys? Who is going to... Now, it's the Cowboys. People will always love them. People will always love the star. There were people that thought Jerry Jones was racist because of the picture back in the day, and they still love the Cowboys. And they're, same people that was crying racism still love the Cowboys. They just always will. But, who's the face of your team now? Who's the person? Not even just the face, because I guess Dak is still the face, but who's the persona? I don't know if they have a persona on that team. So even if Micah Parsons wasn't worth every single thing you thought he was asking for on the field, he was a persona for your team, and you got rid of him. And, Chris Long mentioned that he's not necessarily a diva, and he does work very hard from what I've seen. He's not a diva, but I don't like that he podcasts during the season. I actually hate that, and that's one of the reasons I would never want him on the Eagles. I don't want you jumping on a podcast like I'm jumping on one. If I could jump onto the field like you did, I wouldn't need this podcast, sir. I'd have more than enough money and better things to do with my time. Not judging you because, I get it. If you're a personality, you may want to have a podcast, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, you could do it after the season. You know what I mean? Or if you're on a break of some sort, maybe then. Maybe on a bye week. But during the season, I'm not a fan of that. Don't love it. But he is a hard worker, and he said, Chris Long said basically for not being too much of a diva. I didn't hear nothing else about him until this contract stuff, negatively, other than the podcast. And, he works hard. So unfortunately, what does that show What does that show the rest of the people that may want to, that Jerry Jones may want to join him on the Cowboys? I just don't think Jerry's a good guy to work for. You know, Jim Johnson, it's still ridiculous how he let him go. Jerry's been playing fake GM for years. You know, all the guys have tried to get Jerry to make some changes. I'm sure Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman and Michael Irving have talked to him and other people that maybe he trusts, and he just wants to play God. I really think Jerry Jones thinks he's a god among men because he owns the Cowboys. And I think that's what he believes, and that's what he's going to die by, unfortunately. So I don't see this man changing anytime soon. So it's just going to be more of this. So anybody, you know, he ran off everybody. Bill Parcells was there, ran Bill Parcells off. You know, does Jerry want to win, or does he want to be a god among men? A fake one by that account. But, you know, ego, pride and ego, terrible things if you don't check them. So with that said, we're going to end the video here. I truly appreciate you listening this long. I'm a little disgusted because I made this long of a video about something with the Cowboys. I'm a little sick to my stomach. But please like, share, and subscribe either way. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our glorious content. You want to make sure that you hang on towards the end, because I guarantee you we will have a video or a playlist that you'll definitely enjoy. And you want to make sure you comment, because I promise I will reply balls life. And the question that I have on my way out of here, do you think Chris Long is on point with saying that what Jerry is doing now is going to affect his relationship moving forward with other players and wanting to join the Cowboys and actually help make them a winner? At a certain point, you can't keep treating people badly. People are not going to keep coming back. Sooner or later, that girl will probably leave you, eventually. So with that said, thank you very much for your time. Truly appreciate you for listening this long. If you have, very humble. Much love. That somehow you never get over me.